Greetings and welcome, followers of MGTOW. Before we begin, just real briefly, for those who are watching this video and are unaware of what MGTOW is, the acronym stands for Men Going Their Own Way. It's a title for a movement by and for men. A few samples of definitions mined from the internet include MGTOW, men going their own way, is a statement of self-ownership, where the modern man preserves and protects his own sovereignty above all else. It is the manifestation of one word: no. Ejecting silly preconceptions and cultural definitions of what a man is. Looking to no one else for social cues. Refusing to bow, serve, and kneel for the opportunity to be treated like a disposable utility. And living according to his own best interests in a world which would rather he didn't. MGTOW asserts that only you have the right to decide what your goals in life should be. It is saying that, as a man, I will not surrender my will to the social expectations of women in society, because both have become hostile against masculinity. MGTOW often talk about seeking independence from Western and/or consumer culture, and a few MGTOW try to live that sort of Zen existence. Most of those who embrace the term have a deep hostility towards and/or profound distrust of feminists and women in general. Many MGTOW refuse to date Western women, and some try to avoid women altogether. Well, before we go any further, it should be noted that just by being a MGTOW, you are a nihilist, plain and simple. And before you get all up in arms, relax. This is a good thing, and I mean this in a good way. After all, you are watching a video by the Metasage. And you could say that the Metasage channel is the flagship station of nihilism on the internet today. So this isn't a disparaging title aimed to degrade you, nor is it indicative of a characterization that you are either depressed, violent, lazy, immoral, or apathetic. But meant just as a label that is reflective of a matter of truth and fact. Nihilism is a philosophical doctrine that suggests the negation of one or more reputedly meaningful aspects of life. MGTOW itself is a cornucopia of negations of normative meanings and values that are usually associated with the average life. Tossing out investments into dating, sexual relations, marriage, childbearing, societal expectations, social and cultural traditions, and the disposal of all aspirations to emulate the role of a specific gender archetype are all value subtraction equations, no matter how you slice it. So you have arrived at this point. So are you gonna live up to the name of MGTOW and really be a man that goes his own way? Or are you gonna remain bitter and resentful of women and get stuck on moaning about it? If your aim is to be an activist and spend the rest of your life screaming from a rooftop about the inequities of women, it can't really be said that you have gone your own way. By doing this, you are still giving women power and importance by way of investing value judgments into their behavior which continually provokes taxing anger and indignation, which thereof serves as validation by way of your negative attention. Remember, negative attention is still attention. And eventually it gets to the point where thou dost protest too much. Are you really ready to move on from these values you have supposedly subtracted? Or is this all just an elaborate ploy to continually sustain a platform on which to complain about women? If you consider yourself MGTOW, then you identify as such because either you are a product of the so-called incels, that is, a group of men who call themselves involuntary celibate, which is just a roundabout way of saying you can't get a girlfriend. Or you are a man that has had girlfriends or wives, but has been somehow royally screwed over by one. Either way, it's time to use all that time and energy you would normally have wasted jumping hoops for a female, or in complaining about a female, towards your spiritual growth. In other words, it's time to actually go your own way. And when I say spiritual growth, I don't mean religion or any other vague supernatural notion concerning a soul or the divine, but rather, am more referring to what was implied earlier when I read from the definitions of MGTOW. To seek and live and know a Zen experience of life. You are not the first ones to renounce women, only the most recent ones. A man's struggle to find a suitable woman as a companion is nothing new. The inequities of women is not something new either. Granted, the modern Western world seems to have gone berserk with many of these courtship issues. But this is mainly due to the explosion of a very shallow materialistic Western culture, coupled with overpopulation and the subsequent massive influx of mediocrity. Yes, women far outnumber men, and so most of the decent men out there are already taken, coupled up with compatible women and are currently in relationships. Of the small pool of men that are left, some are gay, some are in prison, some are homeless, and what remains are either the cads, that is to say, a few cavalier males, that are usually very confident in themselves and therefore unobtainable and unwilling to be pinned down, which makes them a very desirable, albeit unrealistic ideal for a woman, the so-called forbidden fruit, so to speak. Or the common average insecure, desperate man that women generally don't want, but usually end up settling for, aka the bulk of what's out there. And of this bulk, the ones with the money or the career get the girl, and then usually a subsequent knife in the back, aka cheated on, divorced, child custody battle, paying alimony and child support. And the rest of the bulk get nothing, aka involuntary celibacy. All of this, and yet somehow we are still overpopulated. Go figure. And don't tell me that we're not overpopulated because of a fallacy of scarcity, or because we can fit the entire population of the world into the state of Texas. That isn't the point. The point is, the more you have of something, the less valuable it becomes. The significance and importance of the contributions of individuals are undermined by an overflooding of individuals, which drives down the value of individuality. Too much of anything isn't healthy, and humans are not excluded from this truth. Of which is also why I would encourage MGTOWs to dig even deeper into philosophy and to check out anti-natalism, which is not too far of a stone's throw from your current positional mindset. You see, I'm waiting to see the fourth wave of feminism, wherein women reject procreation. But honestly, I don't think they have the balls for that. But anyway, MGTOW man, now that you are not tied up in chasing the meaningless, mundane pursuit of conquering a woman, of which doesn't lead to enlightenment, and will, given enough time, only lead to having babies, which will seriously jeopardize your pursuit of an awakening, because having a child is almost always indicative of passing on the buck. Why not use your newly found freedom to investigate the interconnectivity of reality with the mind? This is what all people should be investigating. The secrets concerning the source of attention, instead of wasting all our time being desire whores and value junkies. Honestly, I enjoy people's disillusionment. I enjoy it. But not because I enjoy people's suffering, which is how your average sheeple of righteous indignation would like to portray it as, but because disillusionment is what ultimately leads a sheeple to a place where he or she can finally have an opportunity to possibly discover the truth of awareness. In order to arrive in such a place, often a feeling of disappointment resulting from the discovery that something is not as good as one believed it to be is required. Whether it be a disillusionment due to the letdowns associated with school, politics, religion, work, justice, fairness, the opposite sex, or expectations of success in some field of interest, doesn't matter. The seeds for a possible enlightenment could potentially be planted, depending on whether or not this disillusionment leads to nihilism or to a wounded ego that is going to play the victim, because it still deep down desires what it is disappointed in, and is just bruised from rejection. I root for the former. Hey, I have an idea. Instead of getting a gun and shooting up a school or a movie theater or a nightclub, drop the value of the investment into that which is facilitating your malcontent disposition, and instead meditate. Instead of spending all day as a keyboard Rambo, posting diatribes on online message boards, explore the interconnectivity of reality and the mind. Instead of indulging in the poignancy and resentment that comes with the territory of playing the victim, take responsibility for your reality and incorporate a little existential nihilism in your life. Don't swear off women as a means of protest. Swear them off and then close that chapter of your life. Truly let go of the value you have placed on the gratification you receive from female validation. MGTOW is a good thing. It's an excellent beginning. But there is still much more work to be done. There is more conditioning to unlearn, more attachments to let go of. It doesn't end with just women. Welcome to nihilism, where you will deconstruct every attachment every convention, and every expectation. For you MGTOWers that are curious to find out a little more about nihilism, I recommend searching through my video library to find out some more useful information. For this is one of the only places where you will find the subject treated honestly and not demonized or maligned with a negative connotation. Explore, MGTOW, explore.